There are 5 brutal truths about blood pressure after the age of 55. And right now what you're witnessing is I'm just doing a morning exercise just to get the blood going for the day. And this is going to be a component of this talk. So, number 1, it takes a long time to harden your arteries. Most people don't discover that they have high blood pressure until they're in their 40s, and if you're lucky. And one of the concepts is that the blood pressure didn't just happen at that moment that you were in the doctor's office. The blood pressure had been developing for a long period of time, 40 years. So you're going to have to consider that probably since childhood you have been eating a pro-inflammatory diet, maybe not eating so well in your early years in the development of your arteries and your cardiovascular system, and that your teenage years, your early years, you were getting away with it simply because of youth. And the unfortunate problem is by the time you end up having high blood pressure, your cardiovascular system has essentially been destroyed. So now, all of a sudden, you've got atherosclerosis and a lot of pressure in those arteries. And now you're at risk of having a heart attack or a stroke. The brutal truth is that it's going to then take time to recover and improve your arteries. This isn't something where you take a tablet on one day and the next day you're healthy. Now, of course, with blood pressure medication, you could swallow a tablet, and even then, within a short period of time, your blood pressure will be changed, but that doesn't mean your cardiovascular system really is any healthier. The high blood pressure is simply a reflection of the health of your arteries. So my point here is you're going to have to change your ways and be consistent over a period of time to naturally change your blood pressure. So just like I'm doing right now, I'm getting a little bit of exercise in the morning before I get started for the day. And what this is going to do, it's going to stimulate my metabolism, which is ideal. And it's a habit of doing some type of daily cardiovascular exercise that will make a change. But it's not just that. It's consistently eating healthy foods that promote cardiovascular fitness. And we'll go on to number 2, but because of the factor of time, you're going to need to start now. And there will be bumps in the road in terms of your improvement, but whatever you do, you need to start as soon as possible, which is now. The second brutal truth is, unfortunately, you cannot out-supplement smoking. Many times I do consultations literally all over the world with people on the phone and through Zoom, as well as in my office, but I'm always surprised to find that a 50-year-old will tell me that they're trying this supplement and this supplement to try to improve their blood pressure, and it's just not working. And then when I question them, they go, yeah, I've been a smoker. but it's not a lot. You know, 1 pack a day. I'm not a 2-pack doc. Well, unfortunately, just as with the number 1 brutal truth, how long you've been smoking. Smoking is so bad that you cannot undo it with supplements. Doesn't matter how many supplements you take. You're not going to naturally lower your blood pressure if you continue to smoke. So smoking you have to take as a serious addiction that needs to be treated, and it's one of the hardest things to quit. So whether you do gum, patches, or any other method, smoking is that one deal breaker. That if you're smoking and you want to naturally lower your blood pressure, almost nothing that you do is going to work until you get rid of that bad habit. And just like most things in regard to health, sometimes it's not what you do to make a condition go away, it's what you stop doing. Very often people have such bad habits that no amount of effort of adding things to them is going to make much difference. You can almost help people more by getting rid of their bad habits rather than adding things like supplements, like a magnesium supplement or a beetroot supplement or nitric oxide flow or garlic. I mean, you can't out-garlic smoking. You wouldn't be popular, let's put it that way. But the point is that eating a ton of garlic isn't going to really lower your blood pressure if you continue to smoke. So that's an unfortunate thing, is that you could probably do yourself a lot better with just stopping a habit rather than adding things. Number 3, and people do not want to hear this. There's so many influencers that say you don't need to do this, just follow their diet, buy their program, which involves usually eating 70% fat. But number 3 is you need to strengthen your cardiovascular system if you want your cardiovascular system to be strong and healthy. There's just no other way around it. Now, as soon as I say this to people, the question becomes, well, what about this and what about that, and can I lift weights, and well, what about just doing this? The answer is no. The only way to get your cardiovascular fitness, your strength, the only way to get cardiovascular fitness is to strengthen your cardiovascular system. And that involves some types of cardio exercise. Now, I don't give a rat's whether you get up in the morning and ride rollers, or you ride a bike, or you walk, swim, jog, run, row, do whatever. But you need to do what's called this, and you've probably seen it on the internet, Zone 2 training. And what this does, it is the best way to exercise your heart. And how you know you're doing Zone 2 training is, first of all, as you're exercising, if you can continue a conversation like what I'm doing, a wee bit labored, but you're still able to converse with someone, then you're doing it at the right intensity. What this does is it starts increasing your heart rate to a certain rate where your body is now trying to deliver more oxygen to the tissues that you're using, which usually, cardiovascular fitness, you're usually using the large muscles of your body. Right now I'm using only my lower extremities, but if I were to swim, it would basically be all my muscles of my entire body. Rowing, for example, is a great exercise that involves your legs and your upper back and arms. So the more muscles you can involve, the better. And your body starts to develop more what's called mitochondria inside the cells of the body, of the muscles, I'm sorry. And these mitochondria are the ones that use ATP for energy. The more mitochondria in your body, the more energy you can produce, and your body starts to become more of a fat-burning machine. So if I do this in the morning, what I'm doing right now, for the remainder of the day, my body is more prone towards utilizing fat as an energy source. And that's ideal. So walk, ride, row, swim, do whatever. A little bit each day is a whole lot better than a 4-hour walk or a 4-hour bike ride once a week. So just keep that in mind. Number 4, and this sucks, is your genetics. If your mother and your father had high blood pressure, both of their parents had high blood pressure, they all died at 40 years old of heart attacks or strokes, and you're 39 years old, you're in deep frickin' trouble. Because if you have high blood pressure, it's only a matter of time, man. This is very unfortunate, but this is where drugs come in. I know there's side effects of high blood pressure medication. People don't like that. But in this particular case, you have to make the choice. Would you rather have the side effects, or would you rather have death? Or worse than death, in my opinion, is almost dying, staying alive, and now you're a shell of a person you once were. If you have a stroke and now half your body doesn't work and you like to be active, you have to live the rest of your life watching your body just break down and go away. So genetics is a tough one to swallow. Think of it this way. It's like cancer. If your mother had breast cancer, if your grandmother had breast cancer, that grandmother before that had breast cancer, and they all died of breast cancer because they didn't catch it early enough, there's tests you can have done now to check your genetic predisposition towards breast cancer. But what I just told you was a recipe for disaster. So the question now is, what can you do to remedy that risk for breast cancer? It's the same thing with cardiovascular fitness. So keep that in mind in terms of genetics. The fifth, an unfortunate, brutal truth, and this is the last one about blood pressure, especially after we get older, is the blood pressure numbers can change on a dime. All of a sudden, when you go from a sitting to standing position, if you cross your legs, if you have a full bladder, if you have anxiety, if you get nervous, if you suddenly walk up a flight of stairs, your blood pressure might be all over the map. So this idea that people think their blood pressure is, let's say, 122/82, and that number they get to keep, it's not. The blood pressure changes constantly, and this presents a problem when it comes to diagnosing blood pressure, because when the doctor checks your blood pressure, usually they're checking you in a very nervous, white coat syndrome type of state, And if they don't check the blood pressure correctly, even without proper technique of checking blood pressure, and I'll tell you about that in a sec, then you may get false readings and then be put on medication when you really shouldn't be. It's very rare for a person to go into the doctor and have blood pressure that's lower than normal, simply because of the anxiety, the fear, improper technique taken at most doctors' offices. So there's so many mistakes that can be made to give people false readings. Checking blood pressure is not a perfect exam, but it's really the only one that they have. So what you're looking for are constant numbers that are chronically high no matter what you do, even in the perfect scenario of checking blood pressure. If no matter what you do, the blood pressure is always high, then you have high blood pressure or hypertension, and thus either need to make some changes or you need to go on medication. Hey, is anybody going to make a comment down below? I'm riding rollers no-handed. What do you think of that? That's pretty cool. Let's see how much time I have left. About 3 minutes on these rollers. So, these are 5 brutal truths that make it very uncomfortable when it comes to discussing high blood pressure. When you are having your blood pressure checked, there's a couple things, details, that you want to have done to make sure that the blood pressure is taken correctly. And the important part of this is that understand that when you go to a doctor's office, you are checking the resting blood pressure. Not your blood pressure during white coat syndrome, not your blood pressure during an anxiety attack, but blood pressure when you are rested, which means you need to be rested. So the first thing is you need to be allowed to sit for 5 minutes and just rest. With your feet flat on the floor, that's important. With your back supported and your arms supported at arm rests. Then you should probably just take some deep breaths to make sure that you're relaxed. When the doctor, or usually the assistant, comes in, they should not be talking to you, asking you a million questions while they check the blood pressure. They should be quiet. They should check your blood pressure. The first time they meet you, it's probably good to check it on both arms. But if you're going to check your blood pressure consistently, check it on the same arm all the time. We were taught to check it on the left because the artery that comes off your heart has less divisions on the left side than it is on the right. So you're getting a better assessment of the blood pressure in the heart on the left. But if you have any types of cancers or a broken arm or whatever on your left, then check it on the right. But if you're going to check it on the right, check it all the time on the right. Don't go changing all the factors. The blood pressure should ideally be checked where the assistant or the doctor are listening to the arteries with the stethoscope and an old-fashioned, I'm done, an old-fashioned blood pressure machine. Now, if you want to learn more details about how to check your blood pressure properly, then what you're going to see right now at the bottom right of the screen is a video. I want you to click that box. So I want you to start taking your own blood pressure at home by yourself and do it properly. And that way you're going to get accurate information.